Making good selections inside of Photoshop is one of the most important Photoshop skills to have. And in this movie, I'm going to give you an introduction to several ways that you can make selections on a graphic like the one you see here. So, first thing we got to do is determine exactly which selection method would be best for the particular object that we need to select. If the object has a standardized shape, like a circle or a square, you could probably use either of the marquee tools, the rectangular marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool. Now, I can tell you this by looking at this image. While it appears that the elliptical marquee tool would be ideal for this, no pizza is ever completely round, and there's always small indentations and random little dips and crevices and things like that that we have to deal with around the crust that would make it difficult for me to make a single selection with the elliptical marquee tool. I'm better off not using one of these standard tools on an irregular shaped object, even though it might fit the general description of that tool, because I could get better results by using one of the other tools that gives me more options. So, for instance, let me show you here with the elliptical marquee tool. Let's say I started right around in here and I tried to make a selection. See, I can get that right along the top. But when I get down here to the bottom, you can see it's kind of bending out around the crust down there. And then if I drag it over here, it's very hard to get this positioned exactly where I want around this irregularly shaped pizza. So, when you have an active selection like this, by the way, this is called marching ants or dancing ants, and you'll hear that a lot as people refer to selections in Photoshop. This just means when you see the dancing ants, that means that you have a selection made in Photoshop. If you want to get rid of the dancing ants, the easiest way to do that is go to the Select menu and choose Deselect, or by hitting Command or Control D on your keyboard. That's going to get rid of them. Okay, other methods we could use to select this. Well, we could use the lasso tools, but let's say that you're not using a drawing tablet, you're using a mouse, which probably 90% of the people who watch this course are using a mouse. Look at how difficult this is. It starts out easy enough, but once I start to run out of mouse space, like right over here, see, I'm trying my best and I just can't quite make, and I'm really trying here. I'm not just doing this for dramatic effect. Like that's the type of selection you would wind up with if you tried to draw with the lasso tool, unless you wanted to spend like an entire hour just going, millimeter by millimeter around the outside of this thing. So we'll press Command or Control D again. And so, okay, if the lasso tool is not the best tool, what is? Well, for photographic elements, I've found one of the best tools to get started, not necessarily to give you the best selection, but the one to get you started. It's called the Quick Selection tool. So click and hold right here. You'll see Quick Selection tool. You can also press the letter W. And once you have that tool selected, go ahead and increase the size of your brush up here to something like 100. And then what you're going to do when you first want to make a selection is just brush across the item that you want to select. So in this case, it's the pizza, right? I'll just brush across. You see how that automatically starts to see, oh, okay, you're brushing across this cheese here. I'm going to go ahead and pick up everything that's sort of in that same color range, everything that I think is included in that. And then anytime I reach an area of stark contrast, so between the crust and this white background, I'm going to stop, is basically what it says. I'm not going to go any farther because I don't think that's what you want. Now, if I go and I tell it, yes, this is something I want, it'll go ahead and select that, no problem. But if I don't want that, I can just press Command or Control Z, and it'll automatically take it back one step. Now, let's go ahead and select this whole pizza here. Let's just go ahead and click around. There we go, and I'm just brushing around. The same way I did with the lasso tool. I'm just going around the outside of the pizza, but look how much better this is doing than the lasso tool. Then we'll go inside and get everything on the inside. You just want to make sure that you only have dancing ants around the outside of the pizza. No ants in the middle of the pizza. Now, once we're finished with that, we can refine this selection by going up into this dialog box called Refine Edge. Once I do that, that's going to bring me here, where I'm able to refine the selection. Now, yours may look something like this initially, and that's okay. Here's what I want you to do every time you get into Refine Edge. As soon as you get in here, change the view. And change the view to something that is going to give you like an opposite look at what this would look like than what it's looking like right now. So basically right now, this is on a white background. What's the complete polar opposite of that? A black background, right? It's going from light to dark. So I want to make sure that I look at this on something completely different so I can see just how much of that white background is left. I'm missing a big chunk of crust right here. That's the first thing I can see. I'm also got some areas around the outside here that could use a little bit of refinement as well. But that's what this dialog box is for. In the Refine Edge dialog box, you have things like a Smart Radius tool. So you can turn that on, and it's going to allow you to adjust that. And watch as I do this. If I drag it all the way, it's going to start to bring back. See right here, that area that was missing? It's starting to bring that back. But it can also start to bring back areas that are not what you want. So be very, very careful with this. I actually prefer to turn this off and use this, which is the Refined Radius brush or tool. What this does is it enables me to come out here to this single spot, brush across it, and then Photoshop automatically recognizes what it needs to do, removes what it needs to remove, and brings back what it needs to bring back. Once I'm finished with this, I can go ahead and hit OK. That's going to give me a brand new selection just like that. Now, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and I could turn this into a layer mask, but we'll get to that in the next movie. Now, what do I do with this selection? Well, I have a couple of things I can do with it. I can go and deselect it if I'm done, or I could save the selection. This means that I have this stored inside the file, and that way I can get back to it anytime I want. So let's go up to the Select menu, and let's choose Save Selection. And so we're going to call this Outline because we have selected the outline, and we'll hit OK. Now, once I'm done with that, I can hit Select, Deselect, and then the next time I come into this document, I can go up to the Select menu, choose Load Selection, and I can load the outline channel as a selection, just like that. Now I can press Command and Control D again and deselect it. So there you go. Now that we have the basics of selecting down, let's take that a step further and let me show you exactly how you would turn this into a layer mask that you can easily put on this object and then use it to create transparent effects in your other documents.